Welcome to SORMAG's Writers Cafe, where we share the real writer's life over a cup of friendship, sprinkled with laughter and wisdom. My name is LaShaunda Hoffman, and I'm your host for tonight. This episode's sponsor is Using Canva for Book Promotion video series. Have you wanted to try Canva.com but didn't know where to start? LaShaunda Hoffman created a series for you. Inside the series, you will learn the basics of Canva, how to create a biographic, a quote graphic, a book blurb graphic, and an animated graphic, and bookmarks. These are graphics you can use to promote you and your books. The videos will take you step by step to help you create your own graphics you can use daily. Check the show notes for the link to the Using Canva for Book Promotion video series and start creating graphics like a social butterfly. Sitting at the cafe with me today is Lorna Lewis and Melinda Michelle. Welcome, ladies.
Hi. Thank you.
I will be having each one of them to share with us who they are and tell us a little bit about their current book. We will start with Melinda.
Hi, everybody. My name is Melinda Michelle. LaShaunda, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I am an author of Christian fiction. I currently, as of today, have 25 books. They are nonfiction and fiction, mostly fiction. My Christian fiction is in romance, suspense, and I do have a thriller. And like I said, some nonfiction, some short stories, some novellas, and some full-length novels. So I have a little bit of everything for everybody. I have a new book dropping on the 31st of March, but I'm dropping it exclusively on Patreon. I've discovered that platform, and I wrote a 4-book series just for that platform. So it gets released there first before it hits the public at the end of the year. And I'll give your readers a little taste. Wait a minute. What? I know that ain't Bakari. The post was from one of the classmates. It read, "Somber occasion, but good to see the fam. Always good to see the fam. I know we look good. Them King Jeans don't play." There were several pictures Paris could tell were from her funeral. She clicked on the post and began to scroll through. There was a picture of Bakari with a woman and 2 young boys. Then she saw another picture with him, his sister, Amaris, and another man and a woman. The resemblance was undeniable. Does he have other siblings? She asked herself in a hushed whisper. She clicked on the picture to read the comments, and her mouth dropped. These were his siblings that were at his mother's funeral. What? She screeched. Shayla popped up. What the hell, Paris? The baby is sleeping. Oh, you need to wake your behind up, and right now. What is wrong with you, Shayla asked in a harsh whisper. Nah, you need to be asking your man what's wrong with him. Shayla frowned. What are you talking about? I'm talking about Bakari isn't out of town for work. Bakari went home to Tallahassee to bury his mother. What? Shayla frowned, confused. He said a coworker died and he had to handle their workload. Well, that was a lie, and he has 2 other siblings he never told you about. Oh, and 2 more kids and another baby mama. Let me see, Shayla said, snatching Paris's phone. Paris smirked. I knew this Negro was up to no good. I knew it, she said smugly. Shut up, Paris, Shayla snapped. Don't send your misplaced anger this way. I ain't the one lying to you. Shayla flipped through the post and pictures. Her heart shattered and an uneasiness began to develop in her stomach. I don't understand. Why would he lie to me? We've been together for 5 years. Well, I told you what. One of them boys look a lot older than 5 years old. Shayla's hand trembled as she placed it over her aching heart. Oh, my God, she repeated in heartbroken awe. That is from my newest novella, Duplicity Denied.
Wow, that was hot. Somebody gonna get cussed out, ain't it? Now, before we go on to Lorna, I got questions. I want to know why you're releasing on Patreon and how you get paid for that.
Okay, well, my signature series is The Chronicles of Warfare, and it brings to life the scripture Ephesians 6:12 that we wrestle not against flesh and blood. And that platform led to me teaching and training in spiritual warfare. And I have people reach out to me all the time about spiritual warfare content. They want strategies, prayer strategies, warfare strategies, different things like that, different access to teachings. So I created the Patreon platform for my spiritual warfare platform, but I couldn't leave my readers out. And since it's an exclusive type of environment, I was like, well, my normal books are available, ebook, Amazon, all of that. I wanted to create something just for Patreon. So the Holy Spirit gave me this 4-part series, and each year I'll introduce a new 4-part series. There'll be no short stories or novellas, and they'll be exclusive to Patreon. They hit there first. So with Patreon, you create different tiers for different content. I have 4 tiers, and I have the reader tier is $2 a month, and you get exclusive content behind the scenes about books, book discussions with me, and then you get the short stories and novellas that are released exclusively on Patreon way before it hits the public. And then I have 3 other tiers, and they're all based on spiritual warfare content. It's like recruits, boot camp soldiers, and warriors. And one is 2, one is 5, one is 10, and one is 15 per month. And so it's kind of just like a PayPal, where if they sign up for it, they subscribe to your content, then you set the price or whatever, and that's how you get paid. You get paid once a month with it. It's really cool if you have a product or service that's in demand. For my readers, I love my readers, and I didn't want my readers to have to pay to interact with me, so I still have a Facebook group where I interact with my readers, but if they want exclusive content that I don't share with the general public, it's there, but it's only $2 a month. I didn't want it to be anything extreme like that, but they get a lot of behind the scenes of what it's like to write spiritual warfare novels. They get access to interviews with other authors that I choose their book for the month or something like that. So it's a really cool place. Like I said, if you are somebody who provides a service or a product that is in demand, it's a really good way to bring in some additional income.
Thank you for sharing that. I've been hearing this word for a while. I mean, especially on Clubhouse, people have been talking about setting up an account and offering your club notes and different things for that. So I was wondering how it worked. And I guess it would be like having a VIP club part of life.
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
Mm-hmm. I like that idea, and I like that you are I tell my clients that to create stuff just for your email list, as I say, your VIP people, and I like that idea. That's a good idea. Thank you. Miss Lorna, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
So, thank you. Yes, I thank you for having me first, and thank you for that information. I've never even heard of Patreon, but I will definitely check that out. I love that bringing some extra income part about it, too. So, my name is Lorna Lewis. I write under the name L.A. Lewis. I write women's fiction. I have 3 full-length novels, 3 novellas, and I believe like 3 or 4 short stories on Amazon under L.A. Lewis. I am working on an anthology with a group of ladies. It comes out on Mother's Day, actually, and the name of it is The Good Enough Mom. It's about 4 mothers who are striving for perfection. They are following this YouTuber who's actually my character, my story. She's this big-time YouTuber who is showing moms how to be perfect mothers, and the other ladies, their stories are huge fans of this lady, and they're like really trying to strive to be what they see in her. And they are realizing that, sometimes when it comes to motherhood, it is okay just to be good enough. You do not have to be perfect. So, like I said, that comes out on Mother's Day, so I'll be giving more information about that the closer we get to that time. But the story that I am going to read, the excerpt that I'm going to read, is from my latest novella, Torn, A Daughter's Love. Torn is about Angel, both of her parents are in need of a kidney, and Angel is the only match for both of her parents. So this is the first few pages in the first chapter. The good thing about choices is that we have them. Unfortunately, it's also the worst thing about them. So, whose life will you save, mom's or dad's? When my siblings showed up unannounced, I knew it wasn't to help me unpack. Something instantly told me I'd hate this visit. What kind of question was that anyway? It was messed up that I had to consider choosing between my parents. Erica, my younger sister, sat on the sofa next to her twin brother Eric, both staring at me, waiting for an answer. So, Angel, Erica huffed. If you didn't know that Eric and Erica were twins, you never guessed it. In fact, it's hard for most people to believe they're even related. Eric is a younger version of our father. They have the same walnut-colored skin and big round eyes. Unfortunately for Eric, he even inherited our father's balding hair, which is why Eric sports a shiny bald head. Everyone in the family said Erica reached back a few generations and got our great-grandmother's looks. She must have, because she looks nothing like any of us. Erica's a smooth mahogany woman with almond-shaped eyes. Her jet black wavy hair had always been the envy of all the girls in her class and in the family. I used to wish I could trade with her, but over the years I've grown to appreciate my colleagues. Give her a minute. That's a tough question, Morgan, the youngest of the crew, said. Out of all my siblings, Morgan and I look the most alike. We both got our moms' aging-like eyes, pointy nose, and wild curly hair. I've always kept mine natural, whereas Morgan is the perm queen. Morgan made herself comfortable on the bricks, surrounding the fireplace, and immediately started scrolling through her phone. Typical Morgan. Out of all the seating in my living room, she chose to sit on the side, putting distance between us. Why? Because that's Morgan. She never does what we all feel is logical. If there's an opportunity for her to be different, she's taking it. As the baby, Morgan is spoiled, and every last one of us are responsible. Okay, time's up. Who's it going to be? She glanced at me before returning to her phone. Truth is, I had no idea. Both of my parents needed a kidney, and as luck would have it, I'm the only perfect match for both of them. Eric stood and stretched. Well, you're going to have to choose eventually, or they'll both die. He crossed over Erica and went to the wet bar in the corner of the room. I rolled my eyes at Eric's unneeded reminder. How could I forget? It's literally the only thing I've thought about since the doctor told me the news a few weeks ago. Directly above Morgan, sitting on the mantel, was one long picture. It was an off-guard shot I snapped of my parents a few Christmases ago. They were standing, gazing at each other and holding hands, almost as if they were exchanging vows. I had prints made for my parents and myself, and I kept it visible to remind me of what real love is supposed to look like. Now when I see it, I no longer feel the joy I once did. That had been replaced by a heaviness that I don't expect to leave anytime soon. And that is Torn, A Daughter's Love.
Ooh, that's hard. That's a hard decision.
Wow.
Hard decision.
Yes, it is.
So my question for you, Lorna, is what do you think makes a good women's fiction novel?
Definitely drama. We love drama, which is why reality shows are so popular nowadays. And I believe drama and love. I believe as women, no matter what the story is, we still want to see some of the romance in it as well. So I would say a lot of drama and a lot of love would make a great women's fiction.
Ooh, that's good to know. Good to know. All right. So what's my question for you all? Well, I'm going to give you a hard one. What advice would you offer to an author whose book isn't selling?
That's for either one of us?
Both of you?
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Well, the advice I would give is basically to think about how they're marketing the book, who the book is for, first of all, because sometimes your book isn't selling because you are promoting it to the wrong crowd. So think about who this book was written for, who would benefit from this story, and target them. And if you're already doing that, then you always have to think outside the box. You know, you go to places that you may not think you could sell a book, but you probably can. I had one of my first book signings was at a beauty salon. You know, the flea market. I've had book signings there. You just have to really be creative with getting the word out and getting your book out. And word of mouth is still the best form of advertising, as it has always been. So, you know, make sure that, you have a good product, people are talking about your product, and make sure you're targeting the right audience.
That's a good tip.
I agree. I agree with pretty much everything she said. The only thing that I would add is, like she said, you know, verify the kind of marketing that they're doing, and then ask her the feedback that she's gotten, is it from people that she knows? Because if it is, that can be a little jaded. So I would say suggest that you send out copies to reach out to different book clubs, reach out to different reviewers that do it, and send promotional copies to them to get feedback outside of her sphere, and then ask who do they think the book would best serve, just to kind of get a different perspective from it, if she needs better direction on where to go or how to identify an audience. But you have to go where people read. So I would say kind of do your research. My background is in accounting and finance, so I had to become a whole new person when I became an author. So you have to get involved in reading groups. You have to get involved in book clubs. You have to, not just as an author, but as a reader too. You know what I'm saying? And then get on in that world. You know, there are book conventions and all kind of stuff going on that you would not know about because this isn't the world that you're a part of. But you have to immerse yourself in the book world so that you know how it works. You can see what's being done, and then, you know, what people say, chew the meat and spit out the bones. Pick what works for you and apply it to your book.
Those were excellent add-ons. I know I've met a lot of authors who don't like social media and they don't like going to book events. So I'm like, well, how are you going to sell books? Because that's the question you have to ask yourself. Exactly. How are you going to reach new readers every day? You know, and so and they make it hard for themselves because, like you said, if you're not immersed in the book world, they're not going to knock on your door. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
You know. So, what has surprised you most about being a published author?
I think the thing that surprised me the most is people assume just because you write novels that you can write any and everything, and that you can edit any and everything. And I make it very, very clear, I am not an editor. I paid someone very, very good money to read my work and look for mistakes because I am not an editor. I'm a writer. People are always, especially friends and family, like, well, you're an author. You should be able to look over this paper for me. You know, especially when it comes to collegiate papers. I mean, that is out of my realm. So I think that's the thing that surprised me. People think that just because you write books, you can write anything and edit anything, and that's just not the case.
Man, I used to get that too. Or they put you on the committee to do that. You're like, I ain't volunteer for that.
Yeah, or resumes. Like, that's like two different ends of the spectrum.
Right. Well, you got this. Can you come over here and help my daughter write this paper? No. So I get that one too, a lot. What about you, Michelle?
I've gotten that too, but for me, when people find out you're an author, they automatically think you're famous, and it tickles more. So I got a whole 9 to 5. Like, one day, but that always tickles me. And I think it's a compliment that they think that they're making an assumption that your work is good, and people love it. But that just always tickles me. I just think that's hilarious.
Yeah. Hey, you're making all the big money.
Right.
That's they always think you got big money. Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
So what's your greatest roadblock, and how did you overcome it?
You can take that one first.
Okay, this is Melinda. I would say time, because one of the things that I think makes me a great writer is I used to be a great reader, and I don't have as much time to read now as I did before I wrote. So I do miss that, and then just kind of managing your time. Being an adult, I'm also currently in school getting my PhD, so writing is what I love to do. Writing is what I don't have to be forced to do. So when adulting gets in the way, that's more of my block. So I'm throwing mental temper tantrums because I have to be an adult instead of playing with my imaginary friends.
I would say my greatest roadblock is myself, actually. Managing me, making myself sit down and actually writing, reminding myself, because I do write. I write full time and I coach full time. I coach aspiring writers, and just reminding myself that this is what you prayed for. This is what you've been asking God to give you the opportunity to do, and now you're able to do it, and you just let me go. Not doing what you're supposed to do. So managing me was my greatest roadblock. I can say that I am much better now. I put myself on a schedule. I don't always start my mornings at the same time, and I learned to stop beating myself up about it, because it is what it is. But I do, when I'm sitting down, I am focusing on writing. And one thing that also helped me was I write with a group of ladies, and we meet virtually every day from 3 to 4, but we end up talking for an hour and then writing for an hour. So it's really from 3 to 5. And that's my dedicated writing time. I don't use it to check emails. I don't use it to work on client stuff. I don't use it for anything other than writing. So that has helped me out a lot. That has helped me push through that roadblock, getting out of my own head and doing what I need to do.
Oh, that was very helpful for me, because I am my roadblock. Making time to write, sit down. I like that you schedule that. Because I'm thinking as a full-time writer, you're writing all day long, but you got your schedule. You do what you got to do, and you have your time for writing. So that's very helpful to know that. Yeah, I haven't found my writing time. I schedule it, but then something else comes and pushes it out the way. So I need to make it a priority, and I'm learning that. I'm hoping to change my mentality on that one.
Yeah, you really have to.
Yeah. What are 3 things you wish you'd known before you reach where you are now?
One thing I definitely wish. I'm sorry. You can go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I'm still thinking, but that was a really good question.
One thing I definitely wish I had known was the business side of being an author. Writing, being the creative side just came natural. I wasn't trained to write in the beginning. I just had a story and I told it. But I wish I would have known the business side of it, with managing my money when my book sales came in, opening a business account, the tax write-offs, all of that goes into play with being an entrepreneur, and reminding myself that you're a business. You are a business now, and you have to conduct yourself in that manner. So I wish I would have definitely known that from the beginning. I feel like my first few novels, my first novel is really good, but I do see the growth in my latest work. So I guess I really wish I would have taken the time to learn the craft more and then started writing, but I don't know if I would have started. So I guess it happened the way it was supposed to happen. But I do recommend learning all you can about the craft of writing a great story, because I think most people can come up with a great story, but really putting it together and making it a page turner is something totally different. Those are the two things I've learned. I don't really know a third thing right now.
This is Melinda. I think one of the things that I wish that I had known, I wish I would have known or been building my platform all along, being engaged on social media, building my brand as a person, just engaging in social media, being familiar with social media, being comfortable with social media. Because if you already have a platform and you come in with a story, that's just a little easier way to do it. And it's always changing. There's so much to do. And if I had that in place, I think it would have been a little easier, because for me, my most frustrating part is marketing the book more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
So, because you might have something that works with one book that, like I said, I write spiritual warfare, I write romance, I write a thriller, so they're all different genres. So each one of them might have a different audience, even though they're all Christian. But I wish I would have known more about marketing and building my brand before I became an author. And I wish that I knew or understood support. Strangest things, it does not. It's only going to be from a handful of people that you know, but it's going to be mostly from strangers. And a lot of people that you know and may have even supported in their endeavors, they're not going to jump on your bandwagon until you're something fancy in the street. And to not get your feelings involved in that about specific people supporting you versus just having support, period. Because I've had more strangers support my work than people who know me up close and personal. So that was interesting. That was just really like, oh. But then when you talk to other people who have businesses and things like that, it's pretty much the same story. So, and let's see, I think that might be it. I was very fortunate. Like I said, I got with a local author group here. So the business side, all of those things that I would have been lost with were right there. They were very tangible. There were publishers in the group. There were authors in the group. There were best-selling authors in the group. There were, they could teach you the craft. They could teach you so much. So I was very, very blessed to be in a group with a lot of knowledge around writing. So I wasn't just left out there to the wolves. I had some guidance.
Man, you guys gave some good things that a lot of authors go through. I'll start with the support first, because I think that's the hardest thing that writers have is figuring out who's supposed to support them, who they think support them, and who really actually supports them. And if you can get that on that first book, you'll have less headaches going through the rest of the books. But a lot of them don't. They're devastated that the people they thought was going to buy their books didn't buy their books on their first book. And so you'd be all up in your feelings. do. And building a platform is probably the second hardest thing to do, because we were never told to do that. We were told just to write. And then you get this book and you have nobody to tell it to, and so I always tell my clients, when you first start writing, you start building the platform. You start building your readership, because by the time you finish that book, even if it takes you 2 years, that's 2 years of people you connected with, versus coming out and writing a book and then coming out to nobody. and that's like throwing it into the wind, and you think that's how you get to the point of the support, because you're like, well, I don't have any readers right now, but my cousins and my mom and my sister and my brother and my brother-in-law, all of them gonna buy books first. And everybody I went to school with go buy books, and you like, really? None of y'all ain't buying a book? And you mad at them, and then, I tell my clients all the time, did they read books before you wrote a book? Because if they don't read books, they ain't gonna buy a book. Right. And we have such a hard time with that, because I wrote a magazine, and ask me how many times my sisters bought a magazine. Yeah. But my sisters, they didn't start reading. They read as little kids, but then when they became adults, they weren't into reading. So, they just got back into reading now, probably they're in their 40s now. So in their 40s, they read, getting into book reading. I gave my sister my latest devotional, and she actually read it. She called me, and she's like, I'm reading these stories in there. This is great. And I'm like, wow, because I've given her many books, and I'd be like, do you even open them up? So that's the hard part. We're building our platform, and you have to realize that your family is not your platform. And once you can get past that, you're fine. And and that what you're building is a business, and I'm glad, Melinda, I've been calling you Michelle the whole time.
Both things are fine. I answered it either one of them.
I'm like, oh my God, I've been calling her Michelle the whole time. It's Melinda. Melinda, I have a cousin named Melinda. Melinda said, having part of writing is networking with other writers, and sometimes you don't get that privilege, so you kind of have to learn on your own. But if you can learn the craft and the business, you can really get into it. So I'm glad that you all are you're learning. You knew it might have been a little rocky for the beginning, but now you're on the right path, and that helps you be really successful in this business, because when you work at a full-time job and everybody thinking you making Oprah money, it can get frustrating sometimes. You're like, look, I wish I had a tenth of Oprah's money, right? Okay? And here's the question for you. What about your writing do you wish other non-writers would understand? And that's it. You ain't making no money, okay?
That's definitely it.
You're like, what? Come on now. No, I cannot give you a loan for your house. No. So I guess I answered my own question. So what do you guys do when you're not writing? What do you do in your spare time?
Oh, my spare time is usually spent, if my husband's home, then we are probably finding a series to watch on Netflix or Hulu or Amazon or one of those streaming channels, or reading. I'm really into audiobooks now, and it's funny because in the beginning I could not get into audiobooks because my mind would just wander and I just could not get into it. Now I go through an audiobook almost in a day. So I love to just relax and listen to a good audiobook or watch movies.
Okay, you sound like my life. That's my life right there. I love audiobooks. That's the only way I read now is audiobooks. So.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Melinda. I just cut you off. Go ahead.
No, you did. Audiobooks are definitely the way that I've been able to do to keep reading in my life. And then because you're at the computer so much, me holding a book is almost like me holding my phone or holding my tablet. So nowadays I'm more into watching movies or catching a series or something wild on. This TV streaming stuff has been very fascinating. I found really cool series to watch, love a good movie. And I'm also, old movies that you love that are now playing on all these streaming platforms that you haven't seen in a decade. I do like to go and watch old movies from my childhood just to see how I interact with it as an adult, and then go out a whole world is on house arrest. I used to travel, but we'll see what to do. I'm ready to get back out into the sun and into the world, not necessarily people, just, earth.
I understand. I miss traveling so much too. Just to go visit my sister in Kansas City. I'm like, hey, I miss that. I actually watched Love Jones. That's sad to say that's a classic now, huh? But I watched it like 20 years later to see, and I hadn't watched it in years, so it's like looking at it with fresh eyes. So yeah, I've been doing that too. What's the most interesting change in your life as a result of being a published author?
This is Melinda. It caused me to become a speaker and a teacher of spiritual warfare, and I just didn't see that coming. People wanted to know so much about it, and because I tell it through fiction, I mean, you have the angels, you have the demons, you have the humans, and I just think Christians really craved themselves representation. I would say representation, especially Christians of color, and so that's what my book kind of brought to the scene. But then the different scenarios that would happen, the different dreams, different interactions with the spirit realm and stuff like that. People would inbox me and say, hey, this happened to me. I've seen an angel. I've seen a demon. I had these dreams when I was a kid. I used to know stuff before this, and they feel seen. And they were like, well, can you teach this, or what does this mean, and stuff like that. And I finally had a reader. She literally stopped by my office. She was like, can you just teach this to people? Can you just teach it? And I was like, okay. So I ended up starting a conference, and this will be my third year doing a conference. And the crazy part is, God is so amazing, but my teaching and training of spiritual warfare started inside a women's prison because a young lady reached out to me because someone who visited the prison had gave them a book of mine, and they passed it around, and they actually had me come speak at their creative writing class. And then they created a book club just for me. So I had a book club in women's prison. And as I would go and speak to them, they would tell me different things about their lives and how, once their eyes got open to the spirit realm, a lot of them understood why they ended up in the situation they were in and things that happened in their childhood. So I ended up teaching and training in there, and that's kind of where I got my foot wet, being a speaker on spiritual warfare. And I was like, okay, God, with these plot twists, I didn't see that coming, but that's probably the
Wow. That's good, though. It's amazing how books can introduce you to a whole new journey that you didn't even think about. Yeah, that's what I love about it. That's great. What about you, Lorna?
I think the writing full time is because when I first started off, I was in education. I was in the classroom teaching, and a principal actually asked me, what do you see yourself doing the next 10, 20 years? And I said teaching. That's what I thought I would be doing. And I wrote my first novel, and that's all I wanted to do. So, of course, it didn't happen right then. It was because I wrote my first novel in 2010, so almost 21 years ago. And so, now that I'm doing, I never thought I would do this full time. I never thought I would teach writing. So even though it's still there with teaching, it's still not the teaching I thought I was going to be doing. So I wasn't expecting this.
Mm-hmm. How do you stay focused with your promotion during this time?
I'm still trying to master that. Like, it's a hit and miss, or it's a hit and hit, or each time it's just different because there's a new trend every month.
Yep, it is.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
You can't keep up.
Yeah,
really. I have not. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm saying I think it's whatever your personality is, whatever you do, like I'm a huge coffee drinker, so I'm always posting my mugs, and then I relate my mug mood. I call it my mood mug to whatever's going on with my book, if I can connect it to my book. So even if I'm posting about coffee, I'm still talking about my book. So if you don't know anything else about me, you know she likes coffee, but, she also writes books. I might have to check that out one day. So that kind of works for me, but it's been an interesting journey with the marketing.
And, I tell my clients to find stuff that you're interested in and you share that. And so I love that you're sharing about coffee. It gets the conversation started because most people drink coffee, except me, but most people drink coffee, and they talk about it, and you can have long conversations about coffee because everybody drinks different coffee. Not the same. And some people, I saw somebody was talking about a mug where she's like, I got 20 million mugs. People give me mugs all the time. And she said, and I only use just one mug. It's my comfort mug, and that's the only one I use. So, hey, somebody's looking at your post going, hey, that's me. I understand that. I like that. So, if they can if a person can relate to you, then the promotion worked, because that's all social media is about, is relating to people. And we overwhelm ourselves because we're trying to do a bunch of things, and you don't have to. You can post 3 times a day and that's it, and
right.
And if nobody comments, then your post didn't work. So you got to up your game a little bit more, and see what else that you could talk about. If you get no engagement at all, then maybe it's time for a new platform, and but if you're getting lots of engagement, then you don't have to go on another platform. If you're getting lots of sales, then you don't have to go somewhere else, and that's what you have to look at. Is the engagement equaling out to sales? Most of the time, yeah. And most of the time, no. And so if it's a no, then maybe you got to try something else, And be open to try something else. That's the question. Most authors aren't open to try something else because they're like, look, I'm barely making it on here. But that's the key word, barely making it, because nothing is happening. You're not making the sales you're making, and you on there posting every day 50 million times, and you're not making any money. Yeah, something's wrong. So
yeah.
A lot of people. That's what your results tell you if your promotion is working. If you're getting a $2 royalty check, then you might have to up your game. But if you pleased with your royalty check, then don't stress yourself out. Don't be like, oh my God, I can't do this marketing. Your royalty checks tell you if your marketing is working, and if not, then you just have to up your game. You got to buy an iPhone to get on Clubhouse.
Yes.
What about you, Lorna? What are you doing?
I've been doing well. I have not honestly been doing a whole lot of marketing in terms of books. My marketing here lately has been more so geared toward my writing program. So I've been using Instagram and Twitter to put out, and my author page on Facebook to just put out writing tips and things like that. I was doing a lot of videos. I kind of stopped doing that, but I do plan on doing that again. Just little short videos with writing clips. But I do need to start doing more with my books as well. I do know that.
Okay. I see you on social media, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, I'm there.
All right, my last question for you guys is, what would you say to a writer who wants to give up?
Melinda, I would say if it's in you to write, then there's somebody there that needs to read it. And if you're going to, you have to weigh whether or not, which weighs more, your regret of not writing it or the feeling you have in that moment wanting to give up. Because if you write because the story is in you, then it doesn't matter what happens with with the world, because there's something that you need to accomplish for yourself. And then when other people come along, that's a little bit of validation. But to me, if I didn't tell these stories, that would be something inside me that just wasn't right, if that makes sense. Like, it has to come out. And you just never know. You have people who do a lot of things later in life, and if it's not the season for it, that's one thing. But if it's already done, then you're not scrambling when the season does show up. So if it's in you, write it. Because the regret of not doing what's in you to do is going to be way worse than that temporary tantrum of, I want to give up in this moment because this moment is hard.
Mm. Good advice. Good advice.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think my whole thing is just follow your heart, listen to your gut, because some people are writing for not necessarily the right reason. Some people are writing because they think, like we said, there's money to be made, and their book can go to be, they'll get a movie deal. You have to follow your heart, and if you have to be writing is something you really have to be passionate about. So just understand your reasoning behind writing this book. And if it's in your heart to tell this story, then tell the story. And it could be that you are focusing on a book that's not meant to be a book. Maybe it's meant to be a blog. Maybe it's meant to be an email. Maybe it's meant to be in a newsletter. But, it still needs to be out. So don't look at the big picture of a book. Just get that story out. And that story, like I said, may be a blog. Whatever it is, write it. And if it grows from there, then go with that. But don't force it.
I like that. It doesn't have to be a book. It could be anything. Just write it, and it'll manifest itself. But it'll tell you what it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I like that.
That was good. Good advice. Good advice. Thank you. I would like to thank Lorna and Melinda for being with us today. Ladies, please tell the listeners how they can contact you online.
This is Lorna.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I keep jumping over you. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. Go ahead, sweetie.
This is Lorna. I can be reached on Facebook. My Facebook page is Author, AUTHORLA Lewis. Instagram is Lorna_loves_writing. My email is authorlalewis@gmail.com. If anyone's interested in writing or reading, then I would love to talk with you.
This is Melinda. You can find me on Facebook under Melinda Michelle. On Twitter, it's Melinda Michelle without the E at the end. And then on Instagram, it's Melinda Michelle 21. If you look up Melinda Michelle on Amazon, you can find all of my books. They are on ebook and paperback. My website is www.melindamichelle21.com. And if you're interested in the spiritual warfare handbooks that go along with the conference, those can only be ordered from my website. They are not available online on Amazon platform.
I hope what our guest shared today was helpful for you. I want to thank our sponsor, Using Canva for Book Promotion video series. Check the show notes for the link to purchase. I want to thank you, our listeners, for taking time to listen to the podcast. I have my 3 questions for you. 1, did you enjoy this episode? Subscribe to the platform you're listening to so you don't miss an episode. 2, what did you think of the episode? Tell us by writing a review on the platform you're listening to or send to onesormag@gmail.com. 3, did you learn something from this episode? If you did, please share the podcast with your community. Would you like to be a guest for an episode? Contact me at onesormag@gmail.com. One last question. Have you promoted your book or business today? If you haven't, go showcase those wings. Someone needs what you have to offer. This is LaShaunda Hoffman, and I will see you on the next.